Hey everybody, it's GoblinX and welcome back to some more Magic Arena, and today we're going to be playing another Arena Cube Draft, the primary format we're going to be playing until January. So without further ado, let's just look through our Pick 1 Pack 1, see what we want to scoop up. We've got an LS Norn in here. I've definitely drafted a few copies of this and pretty much always been happy with it. She's going to absolutely just end the game almost every time. Being able to kill multiple of your opponent's creatures makes your board absolutely massive. So we could go with LS Norn again here. The main thing making me want to take something else is just the fact that I've already done a lot of LS Norn decks. Got Mephit's Enthusiasm, a great red removal spell. Nice cheap removal for pretty much any deck that has some red in it. Even mono red has a really good time with this removal spell because you're going to make your next creature bigger. It is nice to take cheap interaction early. We could take Enthusiasm here. Just to take a nice cheap removal spell. There's Dismiss, which is a great counter spell in the control decks because you counter something and draw a card, putting you up a card. A lot of decently powerful stuff in pack 1 as always. I think it's really between Enthusiasm and Elesh Norn, two kind of very different directions. I'm going to go with the Enthusiasm this time. Let's just take the cheap interaction that can really fit into anything. If we get a ton of red stuff though, we can just push towards mono red with it and be pretty happy there as well. Now we have more good cheap red removal spells, Pillar of Flame and Obliterating Bolt being pretty high picks for me here. I'm probably going to take one of these two because again, they're going to work super well in a mono red deck, they're going to work super well in an aggro deck, and they're going to work super well in a control deck. Really whatever we need to do. I think I'm going to take Pillar of Flame here. I do like just the 1 mana removal after taking the 2 mana removal spell. Mix it up a little bit, have them at more mana costs on the curve. This can also shoot face, which makes it a little bit more useful in the aggro decks and the mono red deck and stuff like that. So pretty happy to take Pillar Flame. Other great stuff in here like Massacre Worm, the board wipe, and make your opponent lose a bunch. Grey Merchant. Somebody could take like Massacre Worm and hope to wheel Grey Merchant. That seems like a pretty fun strat. But I'm just going to stick with our Enthusiasm here and scoop up a Pillar of Flame. Alright, some more good red stuff. Looks like we can just keep going down that path. We can take a Battlecry Goblin here. This is definitely more committal than our first two picks. Our first two picks are definitely cards that, because they're just cheap interaction, cheap removal, will fit into any red deck. This pack, Big Score, Makeshift Munitions, these cards are like very much just for like the sacrifice deck. And this one's just for like the spells deck. And Battlecry Goblin is like just for the aggro decks. So Battlecry Goblin feels a little more open than these other two red cards, but all three of these are definitely not as open as like the burn spell. So I'm going to take Battlecry Goblin here. I think we're going to push into an aggressive red strategy. If we're lucky, we get to be mono red. If we're not lucky, still get to be a powerful two-color red deck here. Ooh, Mizzix's Mastery is a very fun win condition for the blue-red spells deck. The only card that we've taken so far that wouldn't work well in that strategy is Battlecry Goblin, and even then we can just play it as a 2-mana 2/2, even if we're not that aggressive with it. If you can get to 8 mana and overload this card, just casting everything from your every instant and sorcery from your graveyard again can win the game pretty handily. Mizzix's Mastery is a really fun win con for the spells deck. Smoldering Egg works well in that deck as well. This one is significantly worse in mono red though, because you want your creatures to be attacking immediately instead of taking several turns to flip. There's also Memory Deluge, which is great for blue-red spells. Lots of good blue-red spells cards here. I feel like Mizzix's Mastery is the kind of card that the only deck that wants it is blue-red spells, so it should be pretty likely to wheel. Maybe take Deluge and try to wheel Mastery. Smoldering Egg, another card that I think should wheel pretty often. Maybe people just like that card more in aggro than I do, and maybe it won't wheel for that reason. But yeah, looks like blue-red spells is a good place to be. This makes me really happy about taking Memory Deluge, because now we see Magma Opus, which is one of the big win conditions for that deck. You're just trying to get to the mana cost to cast these really big instants and sorceries while you have like some way to duplicate them on board. So Magma Opus, huge win condition for that kind of deck, and we're probably going to take it here. It's also really good with Mizzix's Mastery if that wheels, because we can discard this for only 2 mana and then use the Mizzix's Mastery for 4 mana just to cast a Magma Opus way early. So huge card there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Even though the only deck that wants this is blue-red spells, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. By the time it comes back to us, there's only going to be 3 or 4 cards in the pack. Yeah, we're going to take a card here, and then 8 more or 7 more are going to be taken. Yeah, there's going to be 4 cards, so somebody could easily just hate draft it, or some random green ramp player could like splash it in. I think it's just important enough for the deck that we just take it there. Fight with Fire is really nice in this archetype as well, because we can use this as the cheap removal if we need it, and it doubles as that win condition late game if we have the 10 mana to kick it. I guess the 9 mana to kick it. We can cast this and deal 10 damage to our opponent's face. Sometimes that's enough to kill them, but sometimes if we have a double vision or a Ral to double it up, then it's definitely enough to kill them. 20 damage to the face, pretty reasonable. So Fight with Fire, very flexible, very good card for the archetype. Sweltering Suns also seems great, can help us a lot against more aggressive strategies, and if our opponent is also a more controlling or mid-rangey, some kind of slow deck, we can just cycle this away. Devil's Play is also good for the archetype though, but I think I'd like to take a sweeper, take a Sweltering Suns here. This is going to be a fun deck, and multiple blue-red lands in one pack is really awkward for us because we want both of these, but it's possible to get both of these because this pack will not be coming back to us. There's only 8 cards in it, so we get none of these cards back. Steam Vents is probably a little better than Sulphur Falls, being able to guarantee it untapped exactly when you want it. I don't know, we're going to have a lot of islands and mountains in here. Sulphur Falls might actually be better because I just really don't want to shoot myself in the face early game. Generally, I don't know. The pros always say the Shocklands are better, so I'll just go with that. I'll trust them. We've got a River Guide pathway, Lava Guide pathway. I'm going to go for that here because we do have some really restricted mana costs, double red, double blue on our 3 and 4 mana costs, and we're probably going to get more. I'm not that excited about an Urza's Command or a Seize the Storm. Seize the Storm's fun in the archetype. You just start making some elementals, but we're much more on just like Magma Opus style win cons. And Patient Rebuilding's very slow. Urza's Command is the only card really competing here. And my apologies again that the cards are getting cut off on the left side of the screen. That is an arena bug. There's not much I can do about that. So if I hover over a card and you can't fully read it on the left-hand side, hopefully you can read enough of it. At least. Thassa's Intervention seems nice. If we can get a lot of instants, this works as a draw spell or a counter spell. I think I like that better than Big Score. Big Score is only really good if you can copy it. If you get the Ral and the double vision and stuff. If you're just casting this up front, it's not a very good card, but doubling it up, it's one of the most explosive cards to double. We did wheel Mizzix's Mastery, so that was a good read there. I'm very happy with that one. Very, very happy with that one. Wielded Disdainful Stroke here. This was the Magma Opus pack. I guess it was... Again, it was possible to wheel that, but... I don't know. I'll take a Reflector Mage. We're definitely not an Experimental Frenzy deck because we have some very high mana costs that we could get stuck with on top. So we'll take a Reflector Mage. Maybe it gets splashed in. All right. Ooh, that's a premium card for our deck. Expressive Iteration, and there's literally nothing else in the pack we want anyway. So it's not even like I take like a Mole Drifter because I think I can wheel an Iteration. Mole Drifter would be like fine in here. But Iteration is so good in here, I don't think it's worth putting it at any risk of it not wheeling. Iteration is one of the best card draw spells they printed in years. 2 mana to look at the top 3 cards of your library. You're putting 1 into your hand, 1 on the bottom, and exiling 1. And you can play the exiled card until end of turn. So it's kind of like you look at the top 3 cards of your library and you draw 2 of them, which is absurd. The reason that it's like that is if any of those top 3 cards are a land, then you just choose to exile the land and play it. And then you just pick the best of the other 2 cards to draw into your hand. So Expressive Iteration's a busted card that is going to be very, very good in here. We now have Mirari Conjecture, which is interesting. I wouldn't be so interested in this if there were other like really good cards for the archetype, but the best card is like Exclude. You know, Shore Up and Voldaren Epicure don't do much in here. Mirari Conjecture is really slow, but it does do that that doubling your instants and sorceries thing by the end of it, and it does give you good value until then. We'll take it here. Again, it's not really competing for much. It's competing with Exclude. This is an easy lightning bolt. This is the kind of card a lot of other decks want. Any deck in red wants lightning bolt. If you're aggressive, if you're mid-range, if you're controlling, you want lightning bolt because it's just so efficient as a removal spell or a way to shoot your opponent in the face. So this card is a 0% chance to wheel, and it's also very good in the deck, helping defend ourselves. We'll definitely take it here. Scholar is also quite good in this deck, but infinitely more likely to wheel. And it would be a little sad if it doesn't wheel, but it is like a 7-drop kind of finisher thing, which are a little more replaceable than the very good cheap removal spells. We've got a Neutralize or an Unholy Heat here. I think I'd rather just take Unholy Heat and keep taking cheap burn spells. So, really just missing some ways to double our instants and sorceries to try to get ahead here. We really want Double Vision and Ral, but with the cards that we've seen passing around, doesn't feel like anybody in this draft pod would have taken one of those and passed the kind of stuff that we've seen passed. So we probably just haven't opened them yet. This is a large enough cube that you aren't going to see every single card in the cube every single draft, I believe. So it is also possible that we just get unlucky and they don't show up this time. I'm going to see, I like it as card draw, but Jwari Disruption just being an instant or sorcery is important for the archetype, and the Disruption's pretty flexible, right? We use it as a counterspell early if we don't need the land, and if we have a 2-land hand with a Jwari Disruption in it, then we can just say we have a 3-land hand, play that Jwari Ruins. It can help us not get mana screwed as often. It's a pretty fine card. Do want a little more win conditions. Right now we have like Magma Opus, and that's it. We have a lot of ways to get ahead in cards with Mirari Conjecture, Memory Deluge, Expressive Iteration. Like, we have good card draw and all of the 1-for-1 kind of removal we need. So looking for a few more like big explosive instants and sorceries, but we're halfway through the draft, so we still have time. Take a Royal Eruption here over a Nimble Obstructionist. Although, starting to get somewhat to the point where maybe we just start taking random dorky flyers as win conditions if we can't find any more big spells. Well, speaking of random dorky flyers, this is kind of the perfect one to run as a win condition in this deck, because it's a 1-mana 1/1 flyer. It's obviously not great, but the adaptability, very easy to use in a deck with Lord knows how many instants and sorceries. 15? Yeah. This is going to be a very cheap to activate ability to make this a 5/5 flyer, which kills somebody in only 4 attacks. So Terramander is a very viable win condition for this deck. Shivan Devastator is another one, although Seagate Restoration is similar to that Jwari Isle. If we need the land in the early game, we get to play it. If we draw it in the late game, we get to just cast a Seagate Restoration. Never been like super impressed by the 7-mana spell on this card though, and I have definitely been impressed by Shivan Devastator just killing people super quick, so this is kind of weird and probably wrong, but I just like Shivan Devastator. It's just such an elegant design. Just a red and X, an XX with flying and haste. It's so simple, so beautiful, and I love it. There's nothing here. Fires of Invention is very bad in this deck because it forces you to play spells during your turn. I guess we can take Mechagodzilla because we're just blue-red and there's nothing else in blue or red. Now we can take a Shore Up or a Voldaren Epic here. I don't think my creature count is going to be high enough that I really want a Shore Up, but I'm definitely not a Voldaren Epic here deck. I'll put that in for now. We are 100% not an Eidolon of the Great Revel deck. That is going to shoot us in the face for so much every time we're casting all our removal. And we do care about our life total. So we'll take a black-red pathway in case I open like a Bolas. I don't think there's any Bolases in this cube, but if there is one and I see it, I'm putting it in the deck. And you can't stop me, because I love Bolas. Take a Pact of Negation here, because I don't really want to play an 8-mana enchantment. Super impactful, but 8 mana is so much. I'd play an 8-mana instant or sorcery, but 8-mana enchantment. That's just less cool. Alright, Arlen could actually make the cut. What do we have now? Oh, there we go. There we go. That's a big high mana value, incredibly impactful instance that we can use as a certifiable win condition. We get to counter a spell, pretty powerful when every spell is super good, as they are in the cube. Bounce one of our opponent's cards, draw a card, and create a copy of one of our creatures. This card's like a 3 to 4 for 1 every time you play it. It's absolutely nuts, and I'm super happy to take Sublime Epiphany. We would love to wheel Poppet Stitcher. I've actually never really been impressed with Poppet Stitcher. And I've played it in some blue-red spells decks, but again, we're like 16 instants and sorceries right now, so if there was ever a deck for Poppet Stitcher, this would be it. But honestly, if Brazen Bar were wheels, I would probably rather just take that, awkwardly enough. It's just such good interaction. Now we have a blue-red duel, which is very nice. We have a Glorybringer, which is very nice, a big flying dragon that can also work as a removal spell. Search for Azcanta. It's really good in like controlling decks, which we're kind of controlling for sure, but takes over in like a long game. Displacer Kitten and Metamorph aren't really for this deck. So negate Glorybringer, coast, search for Azcanta. Kind of want to just take Glorybringer here. Another flyer to end the game with. Doubles as a removal spell, so it 2 for 1s every time you get it down. I think I take Glorybringer and hope to wheel Stormcarved Coast, and if I don't wheel the Coast, I can take like a negate. It's pretty likely to wheel. There we go. There's a way to double up our spells, and that is important enough for the archetype that I am going to take it over another blue-red duel. Ral Storm Conduit, awesome in this deck. Every time we're casting an instant or sorcery, we're dealing 1 to our opponent, and as a -2 ability, we can copy the next instant or sorcery we cast. So whenever we're about to cast a gigantic Magma Opus, we can double it up, or we can use that to double up a removal spell if we need to kill 2 things. Really, really good card. Love me a Ral Storm Conduit for this archetype. Tolarian Terror, another very, very good card for this archetype. Again, we have 15 plus instants and sorceries. So this is a creature that can come down as a 5/5 ward 2 for only a couple mana. And that is really, really good at blocking aggressive strategies and helping take over the game. So I'm taking Tolarian Terror here over Delver of Secrets, which is also good in this kind of deck. Blink of an Eye, saw it coming, also good in the deck, but I really, really like Tolarian Terror, like 16 instant sorcery decks like this. Speaking of cards that are good in a deck with this many instants and sorceries, that's a Young Pyromancer, letting us get a 1/1 every single time we cast an instant or sorcery. Join the party, Young Pyro. Now we have Chart a Course as the only on-color card. We will not be playing any equipment here. Now we have Aether Channeler versus Siren Storm Tamer. Channeler's a little more flexible interaction, I'll take that, but I don't think either of those cards will be making the cut. Merfolk Trickster, Mightstone and Weakstone, Precursor Golem. I don't think I'll be playing any of these 3 cards. Trickster might be the most likely, I like having a lot of instant speed stuff to do. I'll take that. We did wield a Poppet Stitcher, but we also wielded Xander's Lounge. Might be really contentious, but I've tried to play Poppet Stitcher a lot, and it's just always made a couple decayed zombies that basically don't affect the game at all, and then died. If you could get 3 or more tokens with it, then you do make them all 3/3s, but then you don't get any more. Whew. I was not watching the timer very closely. Almost missed the Xander's Lounge, but I got it in the end. Alright, well I guess we get to search for Azcanta as the card that we wheel here. Metamorph's really fun, but... Oh... this is, again, I feel like I'm probably not going to play either. Wield the Delver. Could be actually blue-red aggro spells. We got the Delver and the Young Pyro and the Terramander. Sad day for Golos. Nobody gets to play Golos in this draft pod. Golos is an absolute banger. With all the triomes in the cube, all of the great dual lands. We have so many cards here. This is gonna be incredible. We have a lot of options how we want to build this. We could be full controlling blue-red, we could be full aggro blue-red, we could be mid-range blue-red. Try to be full combo with Ral. Didn't see a double vision though in any of these packs. I have to assume we just didn't open one, because again, it really felt like we could take whatever we wanted for this archetype. We wield Poppet Stitchers and Young Pyros and all that kind of stuff. I don't know. So yeah, tons of sweet cards here. Let's get to the deck building. Alright, let's build this thing. First and foremost, let's get really focused on just a ton of instants and sorceries here and cut some of the creatures that don't really synergize, like Crystalline Giant, Mecha Godzilla, just a very slow card. Aurend is pretty slow. Can draw you a lot of cards though. We could just keep choosing instant or sorcery or whatever, but super slow card. What else do we have here? Battlecry Goblin doesn't make any sense. Don't love Trickster. Do like Delver and Terramander. Shivan Devastator and Glorybringer don't exactly synergize either, but they're good ways to start pushing in for a lot of damage pretty quickly. Good win conditions that we don't have a million of. We'll cut down to at least these creatures, but we might cut down some more in the future. I don't really like Shore Up in here. We have a few counterspells that can counter anything, including cards that would target our creatures. We don't really need to protect our creatures all the time because we do have other ways to try to finish the game between our big spells, Fight with Fire, Magma Opus. Probably don't want to cut too low on creatures because part of the power of Sublime Epiphany is copying a creature on board while you're countering something. We could cut Devastator though if we cut anything, because we can't copy that with Sublime Epiphany. That's on the chopping block, but I still think it's a really powerful card, so it'd be a hard debate there. 6 more cards to cut. Search for Escanta, also super slow. Don't love Chart a Course here. We have some creatures, but I'm gonna be draw 2, discard 1. I mean, draw 2, discard 1's not horrible. But not great, that's what it is most of the time. Just be a full counter burn deck here. All counter spells and burn spells. Murray Conjecture also real slow. Pact of Negation is just really funny. I think it's like the greatest thing in the world, but it's such a hilarious card that it just leads to a lot of really funny moments, really silly games, so I just enjoy that card. Probably going to run it even if I shouldn't. I'm not sure that I can properly evaluate that card because I enjoy it too much. We want some amount of good card draw, so I like Behold and Memory Deluge in here, but maybe that's a little bit overkill. Maybe we cut like a Behold. Mythic's Mastery is going to be a fun time. Do we ever overload that thing? And if we're lucky, we do have the 2-card combo. Discard the Magma Opus. Recast it for 4 mana with Mythic's Mastery. Aether Channeler is one of the only creatures that doesn't exactly synergize with everything else in our deck again. It's a very good little tempo play, a little interactive piece, but just go the full synergy build here. Cutting 5 cards. I am not going to cut a land. We have an 8-mana Magma Opus, an 8-mana Mythic's Mastery Overload, a 9-mana Fight with Fire Kicker, 6-mana Epiphany, X-mana Intervention. I don't think we cut a land. Yeah, I mean, I think these are potential cuts. Again, because of Magma Opus, I don't want to cut astronomical amount of creatures, so I guess I'll cut all these non-creatures that I set aside, and then 2 of these creatures. We get very low on creatures. We'll go Devastator, because I can't copy it with Epiphany, and then just go full counterburn tempo. Drop creatures, remove and counter everything from that point on, and then play a big bomb late game. So just go for all the cheap creatures here. I mean, Channeler just doesn't do a lot. When it comes to winning the game, it's better at like keeping us alive, and we're really good at that with all this burn. I get the best at just bouncing stuff and trading off with a cheap creature. I actually don't love the Channeler in here. I'm just gonna keep Glorybringer instead. And I think this will be it. Yep, that seems pretty likely. Huge amount of instants and sorceries, very low creature count, but that's what we want here. Got Fight with Fire, Magma Opus win cons, Epiphany win con. I do still feel like a tiny bit low on win conditions, so I think I'm actually going to put Shivan Devastator back in here. Doesn't synergize with Epiphany, but it still just wins a game quickly. Cut one more card to get that in. I guess I could just go Pact of Negation at that point. Maybe Thassa's Intervention is just a lot of mana. Do that instead. Still have Disallow, Disdainful Stroke, Disruption, and Pact of Negation. And I think I actually like an Intervention better in here than Pact of Negation because it's our only counterspell that we could use as card draw when we need it, which makes it a little more flexible, and it also makes it something that could actually be decent to like double up with Ral. I have nothing else to do. If I'm like out of cards in hand, but I have a Ral on board, a double Thassa's Intervention to draw 4 instead of 2 could be a good duplication there. So we'll roll with that. Get the Shivan Devastator back in here. Check our sources. We have 14 red cards, 12 blue. That's pretty close to even. Running an even number here because we've got a lot of double blue. Seems super reasonable. Yeah, looks like a solid mana base. That'll be the deck. I have changed my mind again, and I'm going to swap win conditions from Shivan Devastator to the much sillier, dumber, less consistent win condition, Mirari Conjecture. I'm feeling spicy today. Mirari Conjecture doesn't always immediately win a game, but slowly but surely through a bunch of card advantage and then just doubling up some lightning bolts or something. It can get there. It's probably making the deck weaker, but it's making it more fun. Now there's 2 different cards in our deck that can duplicate instants and sorceries and maybe really go crazy with Magma Opus and Sublime Epiphany. So one final last second change there, but now it's a deck. Alright, here we have a look at the final deck we're going to be playing with today. This is going to be a very fun blue-red spells build. We've got a lot of the decent blue-red spells creatures to get out aggressively, like Delver of Secrets, Terramander, Young Pyromancer providing a ton of elementals throughout the game, so we have a bunch of chump blockers when we need them, and Tolarian Terror being probably like a 3-mana 5/5 at most of the time. We do have 16 instant/sorceries in the deck, so that's going to make that really easy. And then one Glorybringer just as a nice hasting flying win condition and removal spell all in one. When you look at our instant sorceries, just all of our non-creature stuff, it is a ton of burn spells and a ton of counter spells, just all kinds of ways to interact, blow up our opponent's cheap creatures. We even have the board wipe from Sweltering Suns, and counter all of our opponent's big spells with like Disallow, Disdainful Stroke style cards. Few card draw spells to get up in card advantage between Expressive Iteration, Memory Deluge, Thassa's Intervention, and then some really big explosive instants and sorceries like Magma Opus, Sublime Epiphany, Fight with Fire, and Mizzix's Mastery, which could recast everything in our grave. So some huge instant sorcery win conditions there, and 2 ways to double them up between Ral, Storm Conduit, and the Mirari Conjecture, so should be a really fun deck today. I'm very much looking forward to the gameplay, so let's just get into it and see how the deck does. Alright, here we are on the play with a turn 1 Delver, a Lightning Bolt, and a Disdainful Stroke to hold up later. This is a Snap Keep. Nice blue-red aggro kind of tempo deck this game. Phoenix Chick turn 1 from our opponent. That is gonna be an aggro deck from our opponent. That is a guarantee. Immediate flipped Delver is a pretty good time. I'm gonna play this land so I can hold up. Well, actually, there's literally no reason to hold up Disdainful Stroke. They can't afford it. I should have just played Xander's Lounge. Turn 2 of all of the gameplay, and we've already punted. That's what it's all about. It's all good, though. We don't have a 3-mana play anyway, so I can just play Xander's Lounge turn 3. Not going to shoot down a Phoenix Chick because it does not outrace an Insectile Aberration, and it doesn't affect the game too much, and it can come back from the grave, most importantly. The opponent is red-white, so some Boros aggro here. I think that's the red-white pathway. Certainly is. Needle Verge and Pillar Verge pathway. Machias the Lunarch is the play. Rather save Lightning Bolt to use at instant speed when I need it. So I am actually going to just Royal Eruption Machias. And it might actually end up being a good thing I just didn't play Xander's Lounge, because if I flood out, I can just cycle this away for 3 mana and draw a card instead. I suppose that's the plan for Xander's Lounge now. It is our second blue source, though, and we do have multiple double blue cards. So, if I top deck an island, we probably cycle it away. If I don't top deck an island, I just play it next turn. Alright, that's close enough. Top decking an island, basically. Play that tapped, I still hold up Lightning Bolt and Disdainful Stroke, and if I don't need to cast anything, I just cycle away the Xander's Lounge. This opponent is maybe just red-white, because Jetmir's Garden is red and white. Looks like full red, white, green. Alright. Naya aggro. So far, just our 1-mana 3/2 flyer. Winning us the game, but that's fair enough. That is an unreasonable rate for a 3/2 flyer. Voracious Hydra. Technically, mana value 4 because they spent 4 on it, so we'll Disdainful Stroke it. I guess I could have bolted it as well. Because I can respond to the fight trigger. Yeah, I could have bolted it also. I'm going to have 3 different card types in grave after I cycle the Lounge, so Unholy Heat is not quite at 6 damage. Wow, this card's nuts. This is the non-nerfed version, so this is 1 mana, 6 damage? Potentially? That's really bad. Yeah, we're going to get punished pretty hard for choosing to counter the Hydra instead of bolting it. Go full control here. Yeah, because I'm going to have to just throw both spells at this Glorybringer or my Aberration will die. Yep. Played this one out really poorly. We could have bolted the Hydra and then countered that one and still had the other burn spell in hand, but Mirari Conjecture is a beautiful draw. Could have still had Unholy Heat in hand at this point. Missed a land drop for fun at this point. I just want to make sure that I can stack in as many punts as possible game 1 to get them all out of the way for the rest of the games where it will probably matter, because this game, we're just going to Mirari Conjecture and bolt their face and win. Alright, I got about infinite punts out of the way in the game where we drew super well against a bit of a dirtily draw from our opponent. It wasn't that dirtily, we just countered the only non-dirtly things they did. Yeah, just a really good draw there. Hitting the immediate flipped Delver was huge, and then just having just enough interaction to stop everything they were doing long enough to just kill them. So, alright. Let's reevaluate, let's reassess. Let's play smart this time. No punts. These games where it might matter. Keeping this hand might immediately be a punt. There's 1 2-mana play and it's interactive, or it's a counter spell, so I can't. There's nothing I'm gonna actively be doing until quite late. And I probably even play this as Drawry Ruins. Feels like a mulligan. It feels too slow by the cube's general standards. Yeah, I'm gonna do that. This is a lot better. We have to get rid of Mastery though, because it's very slow. And we have to play Drawry Ruins. It's our only blue source. But Iteration really makes up for the mulligan, immediately putting us up in cards. That is a card we wait till turn 3 to play though, so that we can actually play any land we hit off of it. But we will play it now. Well, it's not wonderful. How likely am I to want to cycle this Xander's Lounge? Get the tap land out of the way right now, but I'm gonna have 6 lands after this iteration. I might actually want to cycle this Lounge, so I'm gonna put it in hand here and play the island. Yeah, because we have 6 lands. Our opponent is on white-black, and they started with a Spirited Companion into a Phyrexian Revoker. Hopefully I don't have a lot of good flicker effects for the Spirited Companion. If they choose Ral with this Phyrexian Revoker, I'll be sad. They chose Chandra, Torch of Defiance. That is a card I do not have. They do have 4 mana to potentially cast something I can Disdainful Stroke next turn. Do I Royal Eruption the Revoker? Stop some damage early game here. I probably do, and then I stroke whatever they do, and then I'm holding up a Disallow from that point on. Yeah, I think we need to slow down the damage here. Shoot the Revoker. We're going to have to play the Xander's Lounge now that we're trying to get to 8 mana, especially when Steel Seraph is the next play. That's a 3-drop that's a Mega Bomb. Which is super awkward for us because we can't counter a 3-drop with Disdainful Stroke. Well, Sweltering Suns get the 2-for-1 here. Steel Seraph is important enough. I think we just do that. Kind of just a 1-for-1. Kind of just traded Sweltering Suns into the Steel Seraph, but that's okay. This card is terrifying. This is a Spirited Companion. It's just a 1/1 body. All the value that it got was from the Enter the Battlefield effect, really. Alright, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, I'll play the tap land now. Still need to draw another land to get to Opus. Sarah Paragon, they can recast stuff from Grave that cost, what, mana value 3 or less? That's definitely bad for us. Alright, Mephit's Enthusiasm for their next creature, and as soon as I hit a land, Magma Opus to try to take things over. There's a Dauntless Bodyguard. I can take 2 damage here. It's not that bad. But if I scry with Ral, that's going to help me make sure that I have the land for Magma Opus. So I want to play Ral here, and if I play Ral, I'm going to want to protect Ral, because otherwise Ral's going to take 4 between Mutavault and Bodyguard. So I think I go down a card here and just shoot this 2-1. Just so Ral's a little less likely to die. Instead of taking 4, Ral just takes 2 here. Definitely get rid of the Delver. Ral does get very high loyalty very quickly. The Scry being a +2 is nuts. Plus, putting the Ral down here does make it so I can double a Magma Opus as soon as I hit the land. So, I do really, really want to get that Ral down. We're just going to Deluge main phase so I can play my land drop right now, because if I hit a land drop, I'm going to want it. I'm not going to minus Ral to double Deluge when I can minus Ral later for the Magma Opus. So we'll plus Ral after the Deluge. Okay. Pyromancer land. Play the land, play the Pyromancer. Plus the Ral.
Time to test the storm amplifier.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I don't think I need land number 9. I could use it. Potentially, because I do have a lot of like 1 and 2 mana little burn spells in the deck, so if I need to cast Opus plus another burn spell in a turn, or Deluge plus a 2 mana spell or something like that, a 9th mana could come in handy later. But I think it's better to just keep drawing more spells here, because these spells are more than impactful enough to just play one thing per turn. Don't need to double up with a cheap spell alongside them. Tolarian Terror. Well, now I could Terror plus Deluge, and Terror is going to keep Ral protected. Magma Opus is a lot stronger when I actually get to blow up one of their creatures with the 4 damage. And it's still going to win the game if I double it up, but... we can just keep getting Ral Scry value. Oh my god. Now a 2 mana 5/5 flyer is on top of our deck. Bastion of Remembrance. Whenever their creatures die, they deal 1 damage to us. Yeah, we lose a life, so they don't get to deal the damage to the Planeswalker. Very nice for us. Alright, they can't hit Ral at all. Let's Memory Deluge. Shoot their face. Pick up this Terramander and something else. Oh my god. We're going to take the 2 mana 5/5 flyer. Glorybringer here, I guess. Lightning Bolt's also really good. Intervention's great. This is all just nuts. I'll take a Glorybringer, I guess. Alright, we're gonna go crazy with Magma Opus now.
There's a storm coming your way.
They don't even want to see it. They don't even want to see it. That's fair enough. That is fair enough. We have the bigger creature on board, we have a Planeswalker sitting behind it, and we have 4 cards in hand. Almost anything getting doubled there was going to be pretty bad for our opponent, so 2-0 it's going to be heading into Game 3. Alright, here we are now in Game 3. We get to play a Terramander turn 1, but we're not doing a lot after that, which is awkward, but even at just 3 mana, Intervention can start countering things, so we go Island, Terramander, Lounge, turn 2, turn 3, Pathway, holding up Intervention. Yeah, this is fine. It's not like great, but we've got a plan. That's the plan for the first 3 turns, then the late game plan is these 2 spells, being very impactful. Opponent is going to be pretty aggro though, that is going to be the worst matchup for this hand. May even be worth just getting the battery off the board, honestly. Because Terramander's not going to get bigger for a long time. Let the battery hit us though for now. Could be a mistake. Yep, looking mono red over there. For another damage. Play nothing there. Okay, I'm holding up a Thassa's Intervention for counter unless they pay 2. To stop their 3-drop. Are they going to shoot the Terramander down with a burn spell? They are. Ooh, it's a burn spell that also shoots us in the face. 3 damage to our face and kill Terramander. I feel like because I don't have any way to kill any creatures they play, I kind of have to just let this resolve. Because if I counter this and then they untap and play like a Goblin Chainwhirler, Goblin Chainwhirler is just going to be way more damage to us throughout this game. Because we don't have a way to interact with it. You know, and that's just like a 3-mana 3/3. Like literally even a 3-mana 3/3 is very worth countering. Based on the just stuff we have in hand. So yeah, 2-mana 3/1. Just 3 damage every turn. Kind of just okay countering this here. I think I should have traded into the rabbit battery earlier. This conjecture is going to be really sad. It's going to pick up an intervention that I don't even want to double. Legion Warboss. All in on Sweltering Suns now? I guess Conjecture picks up Intervention, then I play Glorybringer, kill a thing. Double Intervention to find Suns? That's going to be too slow though, I'm at 9 life here. There's a Ral now. Yeah, I have to just Glorybringer right now. And kill this Warboss. If I draw like a Lightning Bolt, Unholy Heat, Pillar of Flame, any of that kind of stuff, we can go Ral and then duplicate our removal spell. Clear out 2 of these creatures. That would be pretty huge. Sweltering Suns obviously is the #1 draw, but literally any cheap burn is great. Down to 4. Young Pyromancer. Not gonna do it. I think we're dead here. Just get mono red aggroed out of it. Keep a little bit of a dirtly hand here, and then the one error here should have probably traded Terramander into that rabbit battery, but opponent just had too good of a curve against our slower hand. Don't believe I can survive because of Den of the Bugbear. I can Ral and do nothing, I can Conjecture and do nothing, or I play a single blocker, block there, 3/2 and take 5, 6. Yeah, no, we're dead no matter what. 2-1 it is as we head into game number 4. Alright, here we are in game 4. We've got an Unholy Heat for cheap interaction, then a Stroke for their later gameplay. Again, a little high on the high mana stuff. The Terror is not cheap when you draw it in your opening hand. You'd rather draw it later after you've cast a bunch of spells, but Unholy Heat their first play, now we Thassa's Intervention their turn 3 play, and Disdainful Stroke their turn 4 play. If we're lucky, and looks like we are lucky this game, our opponent's on red-black and they haven't played anything turn 1 or turn 2. That is quite lucky. Kind of a bummer to be on the draw here, but... Ooh, and that's a 3 toughness creature, we can't Unholy Heat that. Alright. Probably should have just cycled Magma Opus for a treasure by now. Makes Artillerian Terror cheaper as well if we put it in the grave. Maybe I do that now while I have the mana up and nothing else to do. Gets us closer to Sublime Epiphany, which also is like game ending. Oh my god, what a draw. Okay, Arena, I see how it is. I appreciate that. Arena's got our backs today. Arena's really got our backs today, good lord. That's certainly a draw. Well, I went from being pretty worried to very confident that we are in the lead now. Opponent is still not playing anything. Maybe they're a 3-color deck? Well, we get to play a really easy counterburn game now, where we just sit here until they do something, and then stop literally everything they do all game. I should have deluged there. But I guess, I mean, I'm in such a lead here, I can play it tremendously safe to where we play around instants even. Because one of the things you can do against a control deck is wait until the very end of your turn, and then they like tap out for their big card draw spell, and then that's when you cast your good instant. We can make sure they can't even cast a good instant here if I just don't play Deluge, which is actually kind of fine because I just have so much in hand in terms of interaction. I don't really need to draw anything else with this Deluge. So while I was just not thinking when I just skipped right through to my turn, it actually was like a totally fine play if I was trying to do that intentionally. We're gonna allow that Deadly Dispute. They can have card draw if they want. Kill them in 3 attacks here. Cut down on Terramander. I think that's also fine. I mean, if I counter this, it's 8 mana total to adapt. There's going to be 1 instant in my grave. That's going to be 7 mana to adapt. If I Intervention, that's going to be 6 mana to adapt. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Adapt it, hit for 9. If I hit a land, I win. Actually, I think I go for the counterspell here, because, yeah, if I hit a land, I win. Because then I have 6 mana to adapt and 1 mana Lightning Bolt. Oh no, I don't even need a land, because Lightning Bolt makes the adapt cheaper. We go Lightning Bolt, then adapt, attack. Alright. Well, Magic Arena really had our back there, made that one a super simple game. Discarded a Magma Opus because I just realized I was never going to get to that mana cost. We were on a low amount of mana, didn't have any extra lands to be playing there. We needed to make sure we could afford our interaction, and then as soon as I discarded the Magma Opus for the treasure token, we just snap drew the Mizzix Mastery to just cast it for only 4 mana, so busted game there. That was not a particularly fair game of Magic. As you can see from the Magma Opus, that card just puts you a mile ahead. We drew 2 extra cards, got a 4/4, killed their creature, and got a treasure token, so we even had some extra mana at the ready. Pretty solid opening hand here, a little high on mana, but that's okay. We've got some big spells in the deck that we can draw into. We've got a Delver for an early game threat, a Pillar of Flame to use on theirs, and if they're a really aggro deck, Sweltering Suns is going to come in very handy. Always awkward to reveal a counterspell, but when it lets you have a 1 mana 3/2 flyer, pretty worth it. Playing against blue-white here. Well, they know we have Thassa's Intervention up, but that's not going to stop them from taking 6 damage so far. Tireless Tracker, we can Pillar Flame that because they've already played their land for turn, so they can't get a clue. So we'll exile that. Insectile Aberration being an absolutely busted card, now having hit them for 9 damage this game. 1 mana, 9 damage. Feels pretty great. No plays here. I can't do both counter spells anyway, so I'll just play a tapped Steam Vents this turn. Alright, that's 12 damage from Aberration. Is it going to be another game where it's just Delver of Secrets all the way to victory off the Insectile Aberration? Just play another land and pass? Alright. We're very okay with the draw-go magic when we're dealing 3 damage to our opponent every turn and they're doing nothing every turn. Day of Judgment. I will... I'm actually going to disallow that, because if I Thassa's Intervention, I would have to Thassa's Intervention for 2 to get them to where they can't pay for it. And then I couldn't disallow if they have a second spell. So if I disallow first, if they have a second spell, I can Thassa's Intervention the second spell. If their plan is Day of Judgment and then additional removal spell. Now, Day of Judgment is guaranteed countered, and then yeah, second spell, I counter that with Intervention. It's probably better to target Day of Judgment. I don't play a lot of control decks. Or a lot of standard. Probably should have cycled the Sweltering Suns by now. Do they have an additional board wipe? 3 cards in hand. They have 6 mana, could be farewell. Even if they have a board wipe, I've got a lot of burn in this deck, so we just need to draw into a lightning bolt or something like that. And no additional board wipe. Delver of Secrets single-handedly closes out the game. Delver of Secrets just pile of counter spells to stop their plays, and yep, that was a 7-turn clock that got there in 7 turns. We'll take it. 4-1 now. Positive win rate. 1 win away from breaking even on gold and getting all these random rare rewards for free. Very fun cube draft today. Very nice one. Alright, here we are in game 6. Great cheap interaction this time. Unholy Heat, disallow on 3. Ral and Glorybringer to try to start bringing us that W. Opponent is on a black deck. They're going to turn 1 Thoughtseize. Always annoying. They are going to go ahead and get rid of our Ral. Jwari Disruption is a little bit of an awkward draw. Because now I just want to play an island. They're going to be like, why did you play an island instead of a tapped Steam Vents when you don't have a 2-drop? If they do the math here, they could see that we've got a 2-drop. And that draws them 3 cards later throughout this game. It's not that scary and it's pretty slow. Could actually just allow that. Ooh, Pyromancer. Alright, shield's down. I'm gonna drop a Pyromancer, so I have that down for all the spells I'm playing. Maybe should have played the Jwari Ruins instead. Alright, looks like they're just gonna draw cards from the Bankbuster anyway. So if I play Jwari Ruins this turn, I'm guaranteeing a Glorybringer next turn. If I play the Island and I don't draw land, I can't play Glorybringer next turn. A little greedy, but I have a bunch of counter spells and a burn spell to play in the meantime. I feel I'm probably, almost definitely supposed to just play Jwari Ruins. Lock in a turn 5 Glorybringer. Our opponent knows we have turn 5 Glorybringer, so they could just be holding on to a removal spell for it this whole time anyway. You know what, we're gonna get just disastrously greedy here and just hold up Disallow Unholy Heat. And save Jwari Disruption. Tap out for Phyrexian Processor. Disallow can counter activated abilities, so I'm kind of okay with letting this resolve, because if they pay a lot of life, it's going to be really bad for them. They know we have the counterspell, so they're just baiting with this, though. So they might just, if it resolves, they might just like pay 1 life or something. But then 4 mana to get a 1/1 is just bad. Yeah, I'm going to let them get this here. It's 4 mana. They have to spend like their whole turn making the XXs. And I could just counter that ability if it's going to be a problem. Alright, so they are going to do 2 life. So that's probably not really going to come to play for a long time. And then I just still have the counterspell for whatever they have that actually matters. Could also just tap out for a Glorybringer, because we know that they're tapped out, so we know we just get to hit for 6. Alright, shield's down. Cast whatever you want here, but you're at 8 life. Yeah, I like Phyrexian Processor a lot in Brothers Wardraft. I've had a lot of fun with it. Don't think it's super great in Cube, though. Because the cards are powerful enough that you got to be really out of stuff to do to start wanting to activate that. Even if it's like 4 mana tap, make a 6/6, you usually have better things to do for 4 mana in Cube. Yeah, that was pretty sad. Realm Cloak Giant. I was not expecting that from what looked like just like a Rakdos deck or like Mardu. I guess they're a lot more controlling than I thought. Oh well. I thought we were just going to get like removal spells. Getting Wrathed is bad. I'm not going to have a lot of instant sorceries for the Mizzix's Mastery, so I don't think I actually Dwari Ruins here. Even though it gets me closer to overloading Mizzix's Mastery, overloading a Mizzix's Mastery doesn't do much. I guess we lose. Yeah, Chandra's just the card designed to always beat counterspells or controlling decks. Alright, well. Unfortunate. Our deck just can't beat a Chandra. So we can't counter that, and it's got 8 loyalty immediately. Take 1,000,000 damage every turn. If I get to 10 mana, I can fight with fire their face. Well, we have a game plan now. 2, 4, 5, 6. I guess I need 9 mana. I only need 3 more mana. Alright.
Is it just me, or is it getting a little warm in here?
Chandra doesn't have an ultimate, but she stacks up the emblems really quickly. Does 1,000,000 to us. I'm just going to make a 2/2 from Phyrexian Processor, I guess. Alright, we are on fire. We're burning up over here. Can't actually play Tolarian Terror. Which is awkward. Can play it next turn if I just Unholy Heat Chandra for fun. We're probably just going to end up Unholy Heating a 2/2 from a Phyrexian Processor. Yeah, that's better than shooting Chandra. We don't really care about her abilities. We can't get her anywhere near low enough to where she can't shoot a Tolarian Terror down.
Let's get toasty.
Acquisitions Expert. Pretty annoying. We can just discard our Mizzix's Mastery, though. Could discard the Terror, because they can just kill it with Chandra. feel like I discard Mastery, though. Still burning up. We're going down to 14 life now. And 3 Chandra emblems. Oh, I guess I get to play 2 creatures this turn. Here we go. It's really bad though. The only things that we need now are 3 lands, and we just have not drawn lands the last 3 turns. Tellurian Terror and Terramander are cute, but they don't actually really help. Which I think we missed lands enough now that I don't think we can actually draw lands quick enough to yeah, I don't think we can draw lands quick enough to kick a fight with fire. So we're gonna -3 here, but then we get rid of the Acquisitions Expert as well. They can -3 Chandra, do 3 to all non-elementals. They kill their own expert if they do that, so that's fine. Oh, Day of Judgment. Could also cast a Day of Judgment, that works too. And they get another emblem for Chandra.
Or is it getting a little warm in here?
Yep, we can't draw lands fast enough because next turn we take 5 from Chandra's ability, plus Bankbuster gets crewed. Alright, even if I hit a land every turn, our 1 out is no longer an out. There might be something in the deck I'm forgetting. Let's check the deck list real quick, but probably scooping it up here. Magma Opus could win the game out of nowhere. Not quick enough, though. Spawn Epiphany doesn't. Royal Eruption does 5 to any target. If they damage themselves with Battlefield Forge one more time, then Royal Eruption could get there. That'd be 7 mana. I have 7 mana if I play this as a land. Play the 7th mana. Shoot this 1/1 so they can't crew the Bankbuster so that I still survive one more turn. Otherwise I take 4 from Bankbuster, 5 from Chandra. And then hold up a Disallow. And if they pay a life for Battlefield Forge and I top deck Royal Eruption, that's my 1 out at this point. We can't survive long enough to kick a fight with fire. So they'd need to play a double white spell again and not use their treasure. Maybe cast the Realm Cloak Giant here. They let us draw a card if they make us discard this, right? They do, but if this flips, they can crew the Bankbuster with it, hit us for 4, Chandra +2. Hit us with Bankbuster. We're dead either way. So if I counter this ability, they can just activate it again and then crew Bankbuster. They've already tapped Battlefield Forge, so our 1-out doesn't work. I guess I could just see what we would have drawn if they didn't have the Revealing Eye. Didn't have a Creature to Crew Bankbuster here. Mountain. Cool. Well, rough game there. Obviously, in hindsight, if we just held up the counter spells instead of casting Glorybringer so that they couldn't have board wiped, we would have got there. But I really wasn't expecting board wipes at that point. We saw mostly Mountain Swamps, Battlefield Forge. I thought they're pretty aggressive colors. They just happen to be the Mardu control build. So was making the plays that would have been best against Mardu aggro, and it turns out we misread the matchup and it was Mardu control. It is what it is. Chandra just absolutely demolishes us as well, so. Rough game, 4-2, heading into round number 7. Cheap interaction for their creatures. This is a pretty good hand against aggro, pretty bad hand against slower decks, rampier decks. Don't love seeing a dual land from them turn 1, because if they're like 5 color or something, it's going to be a really bad matchup. They're already at least 3 color with a Lotus Cobra turn 2. They're probably 5 color ramp, where this is not an ideal matchup, I'd say. Or not that it's not an ideal matchup. I think it's a solid matchup. It's just not an ideal hand against that kind of deck. They're definitely 5 color, green, black, blue, white here. Play the island, and we're holding up a counter spell now, and if we don't cast it, we cycle Xander's Lounge. Solemn Simulacrum. That ramps them up and draws them a card later. Probably supposed to let them ramp and then just counter whatever they ramp into. So tempted though, because this keeps them off their red source. Is there 1 counter spell in hand? And at this point they definitely know we have it anyway. I'm gonna counter this thing. Keep them off the red source, and keep them from ramping. Untapped Breeding Pool, Oracle of Moldiah. That is definitely getting Royal Eruption, another ramp card, Wedding Announcement on top, an Elvish Mystic for the turn. Alright, those are some cards. Those are some good cards. I don't actually have anything to hold up at instant speed, so I just Glorybringer the Oracle instead of Royal Eruptioning it. And then I might be able to keep a Glorybringer around to kill an Elvish Mystic as well. There's the Wedding Announcement. It's going to give them a 1/1. Every time they didn't attack with 2 or more creatures. And after 3 turns of getting 1/1s, all their creatures get +1/+1. Very, very good card. Ooh, I could Ral Royal Eruption both creatures here. Seems fine, because then when I Mirari Conjecture, I can get... Oh, I can already get an instant and sorcery from Mirari Conjecture. But I can't afford to Mirari Conjecture plus Royal Eruption here. Now let's get spicy with it. Let's get spicy with it.
Yep, I'm reckless and unpredictable. Better watch out.
Just gonna clear out all the 1/1s all day. And shoot their face while we're doing it. I mean, maybe Maybe I was supposed to just Ral double shoot their face with Eruption. They'd be at 6 life here. And they have to double attack Ral. I don't know, the fact that I have a Conjecture coming up means I feel like I'm pretty okay to just throw removal everywhere. Lauren. Just a 2-1, right? Yeah, no artifacts or enchantments yet. That would have been super disastrous if I went for Conjecture. Ooh, Sublime Epiphany. Double Sublime Epiphany to make 2 copies of Glorybringer? Oh, that's so dumb.
You sure showed me.
That's so dumb.
Feel the fury of the tempest.
So bounce, Lauren, copy Glorybringer, draw a card. Bounce human, copy Glorybringer, draw a card. Attack for 12. Oh my god. Ral is a silly magic card. Ral is just the stone cold nuts in this deck. And we're going to be 5-2 now. A great run today. Super happy with that. We're going to get all of our gold back. And we're going to get some bonus cards. So everything from now on, we're just fighting for some extra gravy, some extra gold on top of everything. We're already breaking even and getting some value. All right, here we are on the play for game number something. Game number 8, 5-2. Been very much enjoying this deck and a very big fan of this hand. Very good interaction. Blow up some creatures, counter some cheap spells. Maybe blow up the whole board if they're aggressive with Sweltering Suns. I feel like I've drawn Sweltering Suns in every matchup that I didn't need a Sweltering Suns, though. The only time I didn't draw it was against that mono red deck that just demolished our soul. Might end up playing a Jwari Ruins here. We do have a really powerful 8 mana play, powerful 7 mana flashback play. I don't want to play Jwari Ruins yet, because then I'm not holding up Counterspell this turn. I'm actually going to pay life on Steam Vents, which is going to be suspicious. But then I get to hold up a Counterspell, hold up the Thassa's Intervention. Another probably 5-color deck here, green, black, white, blue. Elas Ilkor, Sadistic Pilgrim. You got it. I'm going to play Jwari Ruins here. I don't think I'm going to Royal Eruption this Elas, because if they play another creature, just a 2-for-1 Sweltering Suns is good enough. Alright, they're going to hit for 2. Down to 16. And they're just going to pass the turn here. They have double blue up now, though. It's a little obnoxious. Feels like not an aggro deck. Whatever's going on there. Maybe I just cycle this thing. Trying to get to 8 mana for Mastery. If I really need this, I can just Mastery it. Single targeted. Ooh. Love to Glorybringer, but we're expecting a counterspell here, so we probably just Royal Eruption. This way I get to hold up Intervention if they have a good play. Still, and my Glorybringer doesn't run up into a potential counterspell. Midnight Clock, sure. I just don't have the mana for stuff. I guess that's what's going on. Weird. I can't Iteration and Glorybringer here. shields down for a turn because I can always mastery back an eruption or something. Play something super big, that's kind of a problem, but it's nice to have Glorybringer here, give him a 5-turn clock. Disdainful Stroke. Well, they did have the counterspell, and it was a 2-mana one. Super rough to try to play around. Indotha Trio. Seen every color but red from them here. A Scarab God is the play. Unholy Heat. Does not exile. These don't exile it. An iteration to find an out here. And I just forgot how many cards are in this cube that just can't just kill with regular burn spells. The fact this comes back to their hand. If I just throw 2 burn spells at this wouldn't be a problem, but I guess I just need to hold up counter spells 24/7 in this cube. Just go land here. I feel like I just go land here. Oops. Wait, why is the exile the last one? I thought exile was the first one. And I can't go back? Oh my god. Well, that's game. I thought the first choice was this is the one I want to play right now. That's mega tilting. I just misclicked on the iteration as well. Should have another land to play next turn so I can get my 7th mana. Memory Deluge is really bad with Mizzix's Mastery, that's a problem. We're going to take 5 from Scarab God now. They can reanimate a Glorybringer from our grave. They are going to pass turn. I think we just punted the game away, not holding up the counterspell again. It's like I just don't play control decks enough to know when to hold up counterspells correctly, because that's 2 games that we lost now because we just didn't have a counterspell for Scarab God and didn't have a counterspell for the Wrath. So brutal. Game's not completely over. We do have a Magma Opus now next turn. And then we can Mizzix's Mastery with a Magma Opus engrave. But I mean, I take 9 here. Because I can't kill anything right now. Almost definitely just dead. Could cycle Magma Opus and Mizzix's Mastery, but then I don't overload the Mastery. Like, overloading the Mastery is still the plan. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Can double Unholy Heat the Glorybringer by going Unholy Heat, Conjecture, Unholy Heat. Elder Gargaroth. That's not good for us. Okay. Sublime Epiphany now. I cannot submit 0. I have to return 1 to hand. Take the iteration then. So Magma Opus, tap both of these when they go to combat now, and Overload Mastery next turn. Overload Mastery. Overloaded Mastery with Mirari Conjecture going off? If I can live? If they have a counterspell, I can't live though. Alright, GG. I was a turn away from being the coolest recovery ever. Tap those down, draw a card, get a 4/4, all that stuff. And then it goes to my turn, and I was gonna Mizzix's Mastery overloaded with Mirari Conjecture going off. And then it was gonna be, I'd have it resolved to where I'd do 6 damage to all their creatures. And then double Magma Opus, shoot them for 8, draw 4, get 2 4/4s. That would have been so cool, but we were just a turn off from that. Some brutal games there. 2 games lost from not holding up a counterspell, so while we did lose a lot of games there, we did learn some lessons for the future, which is, I guess, I don't think it's an accurate lesson to learn, but I'm still gonna do it this way from now on forever, which is if I have a counterspell in hand, I'm literally not gonna play anything else ever. I'm just gonna hold up the counterspell and play nothing but counterspells. I don't know. Control decks are super rough, super hard to play, because sometimes it just feels like I get punished for holding up the counterspells, where like then they just play these little dirtly spells that I don't end up countering, and I don't do anything during my turn because I just keep holding up the counterspells. But when you have a counterspell and a draw spell, really you just need to hold up the counterspell. I think that's the big lesson today. I think the first time in the Mardu match, I don't remember what was in my hand there, but almost definitely we should have just held up the counterspell. I was just thinking that they were a lot more aggressive than they were. And in hindsight, 100% should have held up the counterspell. And then this last round was 100% no matter what. We should have just been holding up that counterspell, because I know it was recent enough. I know for sure I had card draw in my hand. So like if I didn't cast the counterspell, I was still doing something with my mana. I'm still actively setting up. So like if that Scarab God didn't resolve there, we would have handedly been winning, because we would have still been doing all that silly combo stuff later. And instead we'd be at 20 life under no pressure instead of at like 6. So brutal stuff there, punished for some bad misplays. But as far as the draft goes, I think drafting and deck building today was phenomenal. I think this is about as good of a deck as we possibly could have had in our position at that draft pod. Beautiful, beautiful deck. Absolutely could have got a 7-win run with a better pilot. We were just 2 wins away, and 2 of our games were punted away by not holding up a counterspell at the right time. So this would have been a 7-1 run if I just held up my counterspells more often. So I think that's about what this deck deserves. This deck was sweet. It was super fun. It was super powerful. Everything I want in a cube deck. Just didn't play it out perfectly. But we can't be too mad about that. Can't be too sad about that, because we broke even. We got all of our gold back to just immediately hop into another Arena Cube draft, which I will definitely be doing. I was going to say something else, but I've already forgotten what it was. But yeah, super, super fun time. Super cool deck. Very, very big enjoyer of today's draft, even if I did make some really bad punts. Got some good learning moments there. Now I will know in the future how better to play these kind of is-it spells, kind of controlling decks with the counter spells. I don't think I'm ever going to cast something main phase again when I have a counter spell and a draw spell. But yeah, live some, you learn some. Still a great run, still 5 wins here. Just unfortunately, we couldn't get the full 7. Well, that is going to end today's video. If you enjoyed this video and you'd like to see some more, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to let the YouTube algorithm know to send you some more of these videos in your recommended feeds. And as always, once again, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you soon for some more Magic Arena.